What you manifest in your mind, you can bring to reality.
So I'm going in the way, way back machine to when I first found out about podcasts. I was living in San Diego, early 20s. This is like 2002. Got DirecTV. There's a channel on DirecTV called Tech TV, which is shows all about technology. Reviews, hacks, all kinds of stuff. This was before MySpace. This was before Facebook. This was before YouTube and iTunes. It was early days of tech. One of the hosts, Kevin Rose, who was like the dark tipper, he would come on, have a segment where he'd give somebody like, this is how you use torrents to get movies. You know, he'd have some kind of weird tip. One day he comes on and he tells people, I've got this show. I don't know if he called it a podcast. The article I looked up when I was just kind of getting background, refreshing on everything, they called it IPTV at the time. But he's like, I'm doing this internet show with my friend Dan Heward. This is Kevin Rose speaking, but I don't know if I mentioned his name. Check it out. It's called The Broken, where we talk about different ways to hack things. So I go, it was like a video embedded on just a website. This is before YouTube. I think you could subscribe. Maybe, I don't know if iTunes had started doing the podcast, but early iTunes podcasts, you could subscribe to video, and that was kind of the only way you could get video content regularly. This was before YouTube. So I don't know if they were doing that. You could also torrent their shows, which torrenting was kind of the big thing, and I'm sure one of the segments he had. But Kevin Rose, Dan Heward it was very much like Wayne's World, two dudes sitting on a couch. They were drinking 40s. Their intro music was NoFX. It was very much counterculture, very much, underground hacking culture, which was completely different than it is now. But it is what it is. Kevin Rose has since gone on to many different things. But yeah, so The Broken, they only had 4 episodes. Never kind of took off. I don't know. I'm sure they moved away, distanced themselves from it because they were doing a show on hacking. Like one of the segments was how to get a free pizza. Another one was how to like mod your Xbox, like the original Xbox. This is back when it was brand new. Maybe even your PlayStation. So it's, it is what it is. But Kevin later went and did basically the same kind of show. The format was the same. The tech got better. But he later did another show called Dignation with Alex Albrecht. And they would talk about I'll probably do a review. But it was very similar to the one he was doing with Dan. It wasn't necessarily, it was more just discussing headlines and pop culture, things going on, whatever was popular on dig.com, which was Kevin Rose's site that he launched that kind of aggregated news and aggregated the internet in a way that nobody was doing yet. But yeah, that was the first time I had seen a podcast. I think Twitch or Twit was still This Week in Tech. Was a show back then, was one of the early ones. But this was definitely one of the early ones. It wouldn't be till many years later where I rediscovered Kevin Rose. I think I just Googled him one day and found out he was doing a show with Alex Albrecht. And it's like the same kind of internet show. And this was back when I didn't have cable. I'd moved out on my own. I got rid of cable. It's like 07, maybe 06. And I had some video entertainment aside from my DVD addiction, subscribing to Dignation, which went for many years, one of my favorite shows to watch with Alex Albrecht. And Alex Albrecht did another show called TRS. TRS did another show, or TRS, Dan Trachtenberg, another host on TRS, was a guest on Slash Filmcast, and that's where I found out about Slash Filmcast, my very first audio podcast that I subscribed to. All the other ones were video. Slash Filmcast, the reason why I got into podcasting, third host on TRS, Jeff Kanata, currently host on /filmcast. It's a really crazy small world, this podcasting world, but Dig Nation, The Broken, Kevin Rose, early pioneers. It hurts me, it pains me when I hear like a lot of comedian podcasters say that Joe Rogan was first, or like Kevin Smith. I know Kevin Smith was super early, but 2003? I know it's not, I don't know if they had an audio version. It was really just, they were early YouTube, but it turned into podcast, the Dig Nation, which had an audio version, Dig Nation did. I always watched it. I was always just into video podcasts up until like 2008. I started listening to the /filmcast and then got into audio podcasts. But yeah, The Broken was my first introduction to internet content back before anybody was doing it. And I think I would say that that was one of the first. Aside from Leo Laporte, I'm pretty sure there was only like a handful of people doing podcasts back then. And Kevin Rose was definitely one of the first ones, and one of the most influential. I mean, Dig Nation, in a lot of ways, even though it was very much like Wayne's World, two guys and a couch, the energy and the fun they had really made me want to do a show, especially do a show with my friend Justin King, who was part of the Inspired Disorder podcast for many years. He was there when it started, and he was there through a couple iterations of change with that show. But Dig Nation and Justin, the reason why I needed to talk to somebody about the show, because people barely know about podcasts today. I'm talking 2003. This is 15 years ago. 16 years ago. Nobody fucking knew shit back then. So I had to get Justin into it. So I had somebody to talk about, Dig Nation or Techzilla, all the different shows that were part of Revision 3, which I'll get into on future episodes. But I wanted to point out, kind of start at the beginning with The Broken, which you can check out. They do have the episodes up on YouTube, so you can search and watch those if you want. At least check out the early days of what podcasting kind of was birthed from, and one of the inspirations that would later, be a big part of my life. That's it for this episode, though. I hope everybody had a great week. Hope everybody's 2019 is starting off right. If you are thinking about doing a podcast and you have questions, feel free to send those my way. I always enjoy hearing people starting a podcast, having questions about a podcast, or doing whatever kind of internet show. Podcasting has almost become a catch-all for just internet content, but you know what I mean. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. New episodes of this show come out every day. Subscribe everywhere podcasts are found. Binge the show. Become a member over at patreon.com/inspired disorder and binge the full week of episodes all at once. InspiredDisorder.com is where you can find all of my artwork. At Ray Taylor is where you can find me. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Peace out!